The night my sister abandoned her baby on my doorstep. It was raining. Not the gentle kind that lulls you to sleep, but the angry sort that drowns out everything else. I almost didn't hear the knock. My name is Raylin, and that night changed everything. I remember padding to the door in my ratty college sweatshirt, expecting a misdelivered package or maybe the neighbour's cat seeking shelter. Instead, I found a baby carrier soaked through, with a tiny bundle inside wrapped in a pink blanket. "Hello?" I called out into the darkness, but the only response was the sound of tyres squealing around the corner. The baby wasn't crying. That's what scared me most. She just stared up at me with these huge dark eyes, completely silent, like she already knew better than to expect anything from this world. A folded note was tucked into the side of the carrier, getting soggier by the second. "I can't do this. She's yours now. Reagan." My hands shook as I brought the carrier inside. The baby, my niece, couldn't have been more than a few weeks old. I didn't even know Reagan had been pregnant. Okay, think, I muttered, pacing my small living room. Hospital? Police? Parents? My parents. God, I called them, fingers trembling as I dialed. Mum answered on the third ring. "Do you have any idea what time it is?" "Mum, Reagan left her baby on my doorstep. There's just a note. I don't know what to do." Silence. Then, "Well, I suppose she's your responsibility now." "What? Mum, I can't—" "Raylin," she cut in, voice sharp as glass, "your sister has made her choice. We can't have this getting out. You'll have to handle it. Put Dad on the phone. He's sleeping. Wake him up." "Don't raise your voice at me," she snapped. "This is exactly why Reagan couldn't trust you with this situation properly. Figure it out and do try to be discreet." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, then at the baby, who had started making little snuffling sounds. Just us then, huh? That first night was a blur of panic and YouTube videos about newborn care. I ran to the 24-hour pharmacy for diapers and formula, leaving the baby alone for 12 terrifying minutes. I called in sick to work the next day. And the next and the next. My boss wasn't understanding. "Family emergency isn't covered after probation period," she said, like my life could be reduced to a HR handbook. I lost that job within the month. The baby needed a name. The only paperwork Reagan left was a birth certificate application, blank except for the date of birth. December 21st, winter solstice. So that's what I named her. Solstice. A light in the darkest time of year. "We'll figure this out," I whispered to her that first week during one of our 3 a.m. feeding sessions. "I have no idea what I'm doing, but we'll figure it out together." 10 years passed like a fever dream. 10 years of first steps and scraped knees, of finger paintings on my fridge and learning to read together on the couch. 10 years of working from home as a freelance designer so I could be there for every moment. 10 years of being mum to a child I hadn't given birth to, but who had somehow become my entire world. Then, today, another knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. Solstice was at her friend Emma's house for a sleepover, and I had deadlines to meet. But something about that knock, sharp, authoritative, made my stomach drop. When I opened the door, it was like looking at ghosts. Reagan, perfectly coiffed in designer clothes, flanked by our parents. Mom's face was set in that familiar, disapproving mask, Dad avoiding eye contact like always. Behind them stood a man in an expensive suit, holding a briefcase. "Hello, sister," Reagan said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "We need to talk about my daughter." The world tilted sideways. I gripped the doorframe, feeling like that rainy night was happening all over again. But this time, instead of a baby carrier, they were bringing something much worse. "Your daughter?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "You mean the one you left on my doorstep 10 years ago?" That daughter? I was sick then. Reagan's eyes welled up with tears that looked rehearsed. I've changed. I'm better now, and I want her back. The man with the briefcase stepped forward. Miss Sol Sutton, I'm Richard Morton, attorney at law. We're here to discuss custody arrangements for Solstice. The word custody hit me like a physical blow, but underneath the shock, something else was building. Something hot and fierce and 10 years in the making. They had no idea what they were starting. You're not coming inside, I said, blocking the doorway. And you're certainly not discussing custody of my daughter. Our daughter, Reagan corrected, her voice honey-sweet. And please, let's be civil about this. We can all sit down like adults. Civil? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Like, leaving a newborn on someone's porch in the rain is civil. Mum stepped forward, her pearls catching the afternoon light. Raylin, stop being dramatic. Your sister is trying to make things right. After 10 years, try again. I pulled out my phone and hit speed dial. Within minutes, a familiar blue Prius pulled into my driveway. Sullivan West, my best friend since college and thankfully a damn good lawyer, stepped out looking ready for war. Perfect timing, Richard Morton said, smile tightening. I was just about to present your sister with our filing papers. Sullivan walked up, his presence immediately steadying. Then, you can present them to me instead. I'm Miss Sutton's attorney. You knew this was coming, Dad spoke for the first time, his voice quiet. That's why you had him on standby. No, I said. I just learned a long time ago not to trust any of you. We ended up in my living room after all. Sullivan insisted it would look better if we appeared cooperative. He sat beside me on the couch, while my family perched awkwardly on chairs, meant for art projects and bedtime stories. My client has undergone extensive therapy, Morton droned, spreading papers across my coffee table. She's maintained sobriety for 3 years and has established a stable home environment. Sobriety? I cut in, staring at Reagan. You were using when you had her? Reagan dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. I was in a dark place, but I'm better now. I have a beautiful home, a successful career. I can give Solstice everything she deserves. Everything she deserves? My voice shook. She deserves a mother who didn't abandon her. She deserves grandparents who didn't treat her like a dirty secret. She has straight A's. Did you know that? She plays violin. She wants to be an artist. But you wouldn't know any of that because you've been gone for 10 years. We tried to be involved, Mum interjected. You were the one who kept pushing us away. Sullivan held up a hand. Let's stick to the legal matters at hand. Your filing claims my client alienated the child from her biological mother and grandparents. That's a serious accusation. We have evidence, Morton replied, pulling out more papers. Documented attempts at contact, refused holiday invitations, unanswered calls. Funny. I stood up, walking to my desk. I have evidence, too. The locked drawer opened with a click. Inside lay 10 years of careful documentation. Every voicemail, every text, every piece of proof that they had chosen to abandon Solstice until something changed their minds. What are those? Reagan asked, something like fear flickering across her face. Insurance, I replied. Against exactly this kind of situation. Sullivan reviewed the papers Morton had brought. They're requesting full custody with supervised visitation for you, Raylin. The room spun. Like hell, they are. Language, Mum scolded automatically. Get out, I said, my voice deadly quiet. Get out of my house. Get out of my daughter's life. Your lawyer can talk to mine, but we're done here. You can't keep her from me, Reagan stood, mask finally cracking. She's my daughter, my blood. Blood? I walked to the wall covered in Solstice's artwork. Where was blood when she had pneumonia at 3 and I sat up with her for 5 nights straight? Where was blood during every nightmare, every skinned knee, every parent-teacher conference? We're prepared to go public with this, Morton warned. It won't look good for you, raising a child under false pretenses. Sullivan stood. Are you threatening my client? Just stating facts, Morton smiled. The press loves a story about a mother fighting to reclaim her stolen child. Stolen? I felt something snap inside me. I have the note, Reagan, the one where you gave her to me. Want me to show that to the press? Reagan paled. Mom grabbed her arm, steering her towards the door. This isn't over, Raylan. You've always been selfish, but this is a new low. They filed out, Morton last with his briefcase full of threats. Sullivan stayed behind, his face grim. They're going to play dirty, he said. Are you ready for that? I walked to my desk, pulling out the USB drives, the folders, the years of documented neglect. They have no idea how ready I am. This will get ugly. It's been ugly since the night she left her baby in the rain. I met his eyes. But this time, I'm not the one who's going to end up hurt. Sullivan nodded slowly. Then, let's get to work. As he left, I stood in my quiet house, looking at the life I'd built with Solstice. Every photo, every crayon drawing, every report card proudly displayed. They wanted a fight? Fine. They were about to learn what a real mother was capable of. Play it again, Sullivan said, leaning forward in his office chair. I hit play on my phone, and Reagan's voice filled the room through the speaker. Please, Ray, just take her for a month. I can't handle this right now. I'll send money, I promise. Just don't tell Mom and Dad. Another recording. 3 more weeks, okay? I'm figuring things out. You're so much better at this than I would be anyway. And another. The baby's better off with you. You know that, right? I'm doing her a favour. Sullivan scribbled notes. When are these from? The first month after she left Solstice, before she changed her number. I pulled up the text messages next. Then it was just Mum and Dad. The text told their own story. Mum, keep this quiet. We have the hospital board dinner next week. Mum, if anyone asks, say you adopted. It's less embarrassing. Dad, your mother's right. Handle this discreetly. Jesus, Sullivan muttered. They really just washed their hands of it. Gets better. I opened my laptop, pulling up old emails. Here's where I lost my job. Begged them for help with daycare costs. They said asking for handouts was beneath the family name. A knock at the door made us both jump. Lucas, the private investigator Sullivan had recommended, stepped in. He was carrying a thick manila envelope. You're going to want to see this, he said, spreading photos across Sullivan's desk. Your sister's been busy these past 10 years. The images showed Reagan at parties, on yachts, at exclusive clubs. Dating timestamps ran through all 10 years Solstice had been with me. In none of them did she look sick or struggling. She looked exactly like what she was, rich, carefree, and completely unburdened by motherhood. There's more, Lucas said. Found out why they're really after custody now. He pulled out a legal document. I recognized my grandmother's signature. She'd passed away 2 years ago. It's about the trust fund, Sullivan said, scanning the paper. Your grandmother left Solstice a trust fund? Not exactly, Lucas explained. She left it to Reagan's firstborn child, provided they're raised within the Sutton family. It's worth... He pointed to a number that made my head spin. They can't access it until Solstice turns 18, I said slowly. Unless they have custody, Sullivan finished. Then they can petition to become trustees and manage the funds on her behalf. My hands shook as I gathered the photos. So that's what this is about. Not love, not regret, just money. We need more, Sullivan said. Something concrete that proves their intentions. Already on it, Lucas pulled out his phone. I found Reagan's fiancé, guy named Valentine. He's willing to talk. Seems they're not getting along lately. Set it up, I said. I want to hear everything. Back home that night, I found Solstice at the kitchen table working on homework. She looked up when I walked in, her face serious. Mum? Emma's mum said something weird when she dropped me off. My heart stopped. What did she say? She asked if I was okay and if I needed to talk about anything. About my real mum. Solstice's bottom lip trembled. You're my real mum. I pulled her into a hug, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. Always, baby, no matter what anyone says. Is something bad happening? I pulled back, studying her face. 10 years old, but sometimes so much older in her understanding. Some people are trying to cause problems for us, but I'm handling it. Is it her, the woman who had me before? My throat tightened. How did you know about her? I heard Grandma on the phone once. She said you stole me. Solstice's eyes filled with tears. But that's not true, right? You didn't steal me. No, sweetheart. I wiped her tears away. I didn't steal you. You were given to me, and it was the best gift I've ever received. She nodded, then reached into her backpack. I made this in art class today. It was a drawing of us, holding hands surrounded by a heart. She'd written, "Best Mom Ever," across the top in careful letters. It's beautiful, I said, my voice cracking. Let's put it on the fridge. As I pinned it up, my phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. Meeting with Valentine tomorrow, 2 p.m, bringing a recorder. I looked at Solstice's drawing, at her smiling stick figure face. They thought they could erase 10 years of love with legal papers and trust funds. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The court-mandated visitation felt like sending my child into enemy territory. I watched from my car as Solstice walked up the manicured path to my parents' house, her shoulders tight under her backpack. 2 hours, I reminded her before she left. If anything makes you uncomfortable, call you right away, she finished. I know, Mum. Now I sat in the parking lot of a coffee shop, waiting to meet Valentine, while my daughter endured mandatory family bonding. The thought made me sick. Lucas arrived first, nodding to me through the window. A few minutes later, a well-dressed man in his 30s walked in looking nervous. Valentine? Lucas stood. Thanks for meeting us. Let's make this quick, Valentine said, sliding into our booth. Reagan doesn't know I'm here. Tell me about the custody suit, I said, getting straight to the point. He fidgeted with his coffee cup. It wasn't her idea. Your parents approached us 3 months ago, right after they found out about the trust fund clause. And they offered to pay for the wedding if Reagan would pursue custody, said it was about reuniting the family, but... He laughed bitterly. It's about the money. It's always about money with them. Lucas set his phone on the table, recording. Did they discuss their strategy? Yeah, they're going to paint you as unstable. Say you manipulated Reagan when she was vulnerable, took advantage of her addiction to steal her baby. He looked at me apologetically. They've got a whole narrative worked out. Addiction? My hands clenched. Was she using when she was pregnant? From what she told me, yes. But she got clean about 3 years ago. That's when we met. And the trust fund? 2 million. Accessible when the kid turns 18, but only if she's under Sutton family custody. They found out about it when the will was executed last month. My phone buzzed. A text from Solstice. Mum, can you come get me? I have to go. I stood abruptly. Will you testify to this if we need you? Valentine nodded. Reagan's not a bad person, but that kid deserves better than being a pawn in their games. I broke several speed limits getting to my parents' house. Solstice was sitting on the front steps, hugging her knees. "What happened?" I asked, rushing up to her. "I found something," she whispered, "in Grandma's study." Inside, I could hear raised voices. Mum was berating someone, probably Reagan, about letting the child wander around unsupervised. "Show me," I said. Back home, Solstice pulled a photo from her backpack. It showed my parents, Reagan, and several other relatives at last year's Christmas party. Everyone smiling, perfectly coordinated in festive colours. "There aren't any pictures of me," Solstice said quietly. "Anywhere in their house. Not even on their phones." "Oh, baby." And Reagan, she kept calling me sweetheart. But she couldn't remember if I liked chocolate or vanilla ice cream. You'd think a real mom would know that. "Listen to me," I knelt in front of her. "Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us don't know how. That's their failure, not yours." A knock at the door made us both jump. I opened it to find Francesca, our neighbour from the old apartment, standing there with a determined look on her face. "I saw them on the news," she said without preamble. "That sister of yours, claiming you took her baby? I was there that night, Raylan. I saw what really happened." My heart raced. "You did?" "Watched the whole thing through my window. Saw her pull up in that fancy car, leave the baby carrier, drive off without even making sure someone was home." Francesca's face hardened. "I've been feeling guilty all these years for not reporting it. But now, I'm ready to tell everyone exactly what I saw." "Would you make a statement, officially? Already called your lawyer. I'm meeting him tomorrow." She reached out and squeezed my hand. "That little girl belongs with you. Anyone with eyes can see that." After Francesca left, I found Solstice in her room drawing. She'd created a family tree, but not a traditional one. In the centre was a heart with "My real family" written inside. She'd drawn herself and me, her best friend Emma, her art teacher, our elderly neighbour who always saved her cookies. The people who chose to love her. My phone buzzed again. "Lucas. Got everything on tape, but there's more. Your sister's been busy since she found out about the money. You need to see this." I looked at Solstice's drawing, at the careful way she'd coloured our joined hands. They wanted to paint me as the villain? Fine. I'd show them what a real villain looked like. "Your sister's been busy?" Lucas said, spreading photos across Sullivan's conference table. "These are from just the last 3 months. The images showed Reagan meeting with various people in upscale restaurants and hotels. In each one, she was dressed impeccably, nothing like the tearful, remorseful mother she'd played in my living room." "Who are these people?" I asked. "Private school administrators? Real estate agents? Financial advisors?" Lucas pointed to each photo. "She's planning Solstice's whole future, using the trust fund money she doesn't even have yet." Sullivan picked up one particular photo. "Is that who I think it is?" "Judge Margaret Peters," Lucas confirmed. "Had lunch with her last week." "That's not legal," I said, my stomach dropping. "They can't approach a judge outside a court." "It's not illegal to have lunch," Sullivan said grimly. "But it's definitely unethical. And look who paid the bill." He held up a credit card receipt with my father's signature. My phone rang, Mum's number. I almost declined it, but Sullivan nodded. "Answer it. Remember, we're recording everything now." "Hello?" "Raylan, we're willing to be reasonable about this," Mum said, her voice clipped. "Joint custody. You can see her on weekends." "Weekends?" I laughed. "That's your idea of reasonable?" "We're trying to help you save face here. It would look better if you cooperated." "Look better to whom, Mum? The country club? Your bridge group?" "Don't be crude." She paused. We've enrolled her in Westbrook Academy for next semester. It's very exclusive. They rarely accept mid-year transfers, but they've made an exception." "You did what?" "It's a much better school than that public institution she's in now. We've also found a lovely house in our neighbourhood. Everything's ready. We just need you to stop being difficult." I gripped the phone tighter. "She's not a doll you can dress up and show off. No, she's a Sutton. It's time she started living like one." "She's my daughter." "She's Reagan's daughter," Mum snapped. "And the sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." The line went dead. Sullivan was already making notes. "They're moving fast," he said. "We need to move faster. Lucas, what else do you have?" Lucas pulled out his phone. "Remember that rehab stint Reagan claimed? The one that supposedly helped her turn her life around?" He played a video showing Reagan at a beach resort, date stamp matching her alleged treatment period. "She was in Bali, not Betty Ford." "And the trust fund angle gets better," Sullivan added, pulling out more documents. "The clause doesn't just require Sutton family custody. It requires the guardian to demonstrate fiscal responsibility and moral character, which means if we can prove they're only seeking custody for financial gain, we can potentially void their claim entirely." A knock at the door interrupted us. Sullivan's assistant poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here insisting on speaking with you. Says she has information about the case." A woman in her 50s entered, looking nervous but determined. "My name is Patricia. I was your parents' housekeeper for 15 years. Until last week." "What happened last week?" Lucas asked, recorder already running. "They fired me. Said they needed someone more discreet." She pulled out her phone. "But not before I took pictures of some interesting paperwork I found while cleaning Mr. Sutton's study." The photos showed financial documents, emails, a detailed timeline of their custody plan. Everything laid out months before they ever showed up at my door. "They've been planning this since the will was read," Patricia said. "I heard them discussing it. Mrs. Sutton said, and I quote, 'Raylan's had her fun playing mommy. Time to bring our granddaughter home where she belongs.'" My hand shook as I looked through the photos. "Will you testify?" "That's why I'm here. My daughter, she lost custody of her kids last year. Rich ex-husband, expensive lawyers." I watched her break. Patricia met my eyes. "I won't watch it happen to someone else." Later that night, I sat in Solstice's room, watching her sleep. Her violin case leaned against the wall, next to a stack of library books and her favourite stuffed penguin. Everything she was, everything she loved, laid out in this simple room. My phone lit up with a text from Lucas. "One more thing. Found out why Reagan's really rushing this. She's in debt. Big time. Casino loans, credit cards, you name it. She needs that trust fund money now." I looked at my sleeping daughter. So peaceful, unaware of the storm brewing around her. They thought they could buy her, trade her, use her like currency. But they'd forgotten one thing. I'd spent 10 years teaching her she was priceless. And I wasn't done teaching them that lesson yet. The social worker arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, clipboard in hand. "I'm Diana from Child Protective Services. We received a concerning report about this household." "I bet you did," I said, stepping aside to let her in. "Let me guess. Accusations of emotional manipulation, alienation, unstable home environment." Diana's professional mask cracked slightly. "You seem unsurprised." "My parents and sister filed those reports, didn't they? Part of their custody battle strategy?" Before she could answer, Solstice came downstairs, already dressed for school in her favourite galaxy print dress. She stopped when she saw Diana. "Are you here to take me away?" Her voice was small, but steady. Diana knelt to her level. "I'm here to make sure you're safe and happy. Would you like to talk?" Solstice looked at me. I nodded. "It's okay, baby. Tell her anything you want." For the next hour, I sat in the kitchen while Diana interviewed Solstice in the living room. I could hear snippets of their conversation, Can you tell me about your mum? She teaches me to be brave and honest, even when it's hard. Do you ever see your other mum, your birth mother? She's not my mum. She's just Reagan. I gripped my coffee cup tighter, forcing myself to stay put. And how do you feel about that? I feel lucky, because I got to choose my real mum, and she chose me back. Diana came into the kitchen while Solstice went upstairs to get her backpack. Her face was thoughtful. Miss Sutton, I've been doing this job for 20 years. Want to know what I usually see in custody battles? I nodded. Children who can't meet my eyes, who measure every word, who've been coached on what to say. She closed her notebook. Your daughter looks me straight in the face and speaks her truth without hesitation. That tells me everything I need to know about how she's being raised. So, you'll close the investigation? I have to complete my home study, but... She pulled out a stack of papers. I think you should see these. They're the complaints filed against you. Notice anything interesting about the dates? I scanned the documents. They're all from the last 2 weeks. All filed after the custody suit began. Not one concern about your parenting in the 10 years prior. Diana stood. I'll need to do a follow-up visit, but I think we both know what my report will say. After she left, I found Solstice sitting on her bed, hugging her penguin. You okay, kiddo? Did I say the right things? You said the true things. That's always right. I sat beside her. I'm sorry you have to deal with all this. I'm not scared, she said, then paused. Well, maybe a little, but you always say being brave isn't about not being scared. Oh yeah? What's it about then? It's about doing what's right, even when you're scared. I pulled her close, fighting back tears. When did you get so smart? Must be all those books you read me. My phone buzzed. Sullivan. Emergency, hearing tomorrow. Judge wants to review initial evidence before proceeding. Be ready. That night, after Solstice was asleep, I sat at my desk and recorded a video on my laptop. Hi, baby. If you're watching this, it means something's gone wrong. I need you to know that everything I did, every fight I fought, was because I love you more than anything in this world. I talked for an hour, telling her everything. About the night she arrived. About every choice I made. About how she saved me as much as I saved her. The next morning, I stood alone in the courtroom, watching my family file in with their expensive lawyers. Reagan wore a conservative dress, playing the reformed mother. Mom and Dad sat rigidly, projecting respectability. Sullivan touched my arm. Ready? I thought of Solstice's words to Diana, about choosing, about truth. More than ready. The bailiff called out, All rise. The Honourable Judge Peters presiding. My heart stopped. The same judge from Lucas's photos. The one who had lunch with Reagan. But when she looked at me, I didn't see the bought and paid for ally they expected. I saw something else, something that looked a lot like anger. Before we proceed, Judge Peters said, I'd like to address some concerning information that's been brought to my attention. Reagan's lawyer started to speak, but the judge held up her hand. No, counsellor, you'll want to hear this first. I straightened my spine and lifted my chin. Across the courtroom, I watched my sister's confident smile begin to fade. The truth was finally about to have its day in court. Let's begin with the attempted manipulation of this court, Judge Peters said, her voice sharp as a blade. Mr. Morton, did you know your client had lunch with me last week? Morton paled. Your Honour, Save it. She held up photos, the same ones Lucas had taken. These were submitted anonymously to the Ethics Board yesterday, along with some very interesting financial records. Reagan shot a panicked look at our parents. Mum's perfect posture crumbled slightly. Now, the judge continued, shall we examine the actual evidence in this case? Sullivan stood. Your Honour, We have documentation spanning the full 10 years since my client became Solstice's primary caregiver. Proceed. I watched as Sullivan methodically laid out our case. The original note from Reagan, the voicemails, the texts, each piece of evidence hitting like hammer blows. Play audio exhibit A, Sullivan said. Reagan's voice filled the courtroom. Please, just take her for a month. Then Mums. Keep this quiet. We have the hospital board dinner. With each recording, their faces grew paler. But we were just getting started. Your Honour, Sullivan said, I call Patricia Martinez. The former housekeeper took the stand, her hand steady as she testified about the documents she'd found, the conversations she'd overheard. They said the trust fund was the only reason to bother with custody now, she stated clearly. Mrs. Sutton said they could fix the girl once they had her, make her a proper Sutton. Next came Francesca, describing the night Reagan abandoned Solstice. She didn't even knock, just left that baby and drove off in her sports car. Didn't look back once. Objection, Morton stood. This is character assassination. No, I said, standing despite Sullivan's warning hand. This is the truth. Finally. Judge Peters let me continue. I pulled out my phone, playing one final recording from a hidden device Lucas had given to Valentin. Reagan's voice. Once we get the brat, we can access the trust fund, pay off my debts, set everything right. Who cares if she stays with her mum and dad, as long as I get my cut? The courtroom erupted. Morton frantically whispered to his clients. Mum looked like she'd swallowed glass. Dad stared at his hands. Your Honour, Sullivan said, we have evidence of gambling debts, unpaid loans, and multiple attempts to access the trust fund before this custody suit. This entire case is a fraudulent attempt to gain control of a minor's inheritance. That's not true. Reagan stood, mascara starting to run. I love my daughter. I've changed. Really? I turned to face her. What's her favourite colour? What's she allergic to? What instrument does she play? Who's her best friend? Reagan's mouth opened and closed silently. She loves purple, I said, my voice breaking. She's allergic to strawberries. She plays violin and wants to learn piano. Her best friend is Emma, and they've been inseparable since first grade. She sleepwalks during full moons. She hates thunderstorms but loves the rain. Enough, Judge Peters said softly. I think we've heard enough. She shuffled her papers, then looked directly at my family. In my 30 years on the bench, I've rarely seen such a blatant attempt to manipulate both this court and an innocent child. The custody suit is dismissed with prejudice. Relief flooded through me, but she wasn't finished. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full investigation into the trust fund manipulation. Mr. Morton, you might want to contact the Bar Association before they contact you. And as for you, she turned to my parents and Reagan, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order. You are not to contact Raylan or Solstice without going through proper legal channels. You can't do this, Mum stood up. We're her family. No, I said quietly. You're just people who share our DNA. There's a difference. The gavel struck. Court adjourned. In the hallway, Reagan tried one last time. Ray, please, I'm your sister. You stopped being my sister the night you left your baby in the rain. I turned away from her tears. The difference between us is that I would never leave her. Not for money, not for freedom, not for anything. Sullivan guided me out of the courthouse. On the steps, I took my first free breath in weeks. It's over, he said. No, I replied, thinking of Solstice waiting at home, probably stress-baking cookies like she always did when she was worried. It's just beginning, but this time we're writing our own story. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Did we win? I smiled through my tears and typed back, We did, baby. We're going home. Because that's what this was really about. Not revenge, not money, not even justice. It was about protecting the home we'd built, the love we'd chosen, the family we'd become, and nobody could take that away from us now. Solstice was waiting on our front porch when I pulled into the driveway, Emma and her mum beside her. Before I could even get out of the car, she was running toward me. "Did you mean it? Is it really over?" I hugged her tight. "It's really over. They can't take you away." Emma's mum wiped her eyes. "We've got celebration cookies in the oven, chocolate chip, Solstice's specialty." Inside, while the girls chattered in the kitchen, I checked my phone. The local news had already picked up the story. Custody case reveals trust fund scheme. My parents' carefully crafted reputation was in shambles. Sullivan called with updates. The ethics board was investigating Judge Peters' lunch with Reagan. Morton had resigned from his firm. The trust fund was being restructured with an independent trustee. "Your parents are selling their house," he added, moving to Florida apparently. "Running away," I corrected. "It's what they do best." A crash from the kitchen made me jump. I found Solstice staring at her phone, a broken glass at her feet. "Baby? What's wrong?" She handed me the phone. A text from Reagan. "I'm sorry. I know it doesn't fix anything, but you deserve to hear it." "Do you want to respond?" I asked carefully. "No." Solstice started cleaning up the glass. "She's right. It doesn't fix anything." That night, after Emma and her mum left, Solstice sat at our kitchen table with a serious expression I recognised. It was the same look she got before every violin recital, every important test. "Mum, I want to ask you something." "Anything." She pulled out a folder from her backpack, forms she must have printed at school. "I want to change my name, legally." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "I don't want to be a Sutton anymore. I want your name. I want to be Solstice Madison, like you." That's a big decision. I've been thinking about it for months, even before they tried to take me away. She pushed the papers toward me. "You chose me. I want to choose you back, all the way." I looked at the forms, remembering all the times I'd wanted to do this, but held back, worried about overstepping. "Are you sure? More sure than I've ever been about anything." She grinned. "Plus, it'll really annoy Grandma." I laughed through my tears. "That's not a good reason to do it." "No, but it's a fun bonus." We spent the evening filling out the paperwork together, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about the story she was writing for English class, about how Emma was thinking of taking violin lessons too, about her plans for the school art show. "Hey, Mum," she said as I tucked her into bed. "Thank you for fighting for me." "Always, baby, no matter what." "I know," she yawned. "That's why you're my real mum. Because you stayed." After she fell asleep, I sat in our living room looking at old photos. Solstice's first steps, first day of school, first violin concert. Every milestone we'd shared, every moment we'd built together. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Reagan again. "I know you'll never forgive me, but thank you for giving her what I couldn't." I thought about responding, about telling her exactly what she'd thrown away. But instead, I blocked the number and opened my laptop. The document I'd been working on for weeks was waiting. Petition for formal adoption. Now that the custody case was settled, now that Solstice had made her choice clear, it was time. A soft noise made me look up. Solstice stood in the doorway in her galaxy pajamas. "Can't sleep?" She shook her head and came to curl up next to me on the couch. "What are you doing?" I showed her the screen. Her eyes widened. "Really? You want to?" "Only if you want to, but yes, I want to make it official in every way possible." She threw her arms around me. "When can we do it?" "We'll talk to Sullivan tomorrow. Start the process." "Good." She settled against me, already half asleep again. "Because I've known since I was little, since before I knew there was anyone else to choose." Known what? That you were my mum. The universe got it right the first time. I held her close, thinking about choices and chances, about rain-soaked nights and courtroom battles, about all the ways love finds its truth. Sometimes family is born. Sometimes it's made. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it's chosen. Over and over again, every single day. We'd chosen each other. And that was the only truth that mattered.